If you have two objects moving on a parallel path and one of them just takes a 1 millimeter shift in a different direction, at first it doesn't look like anything changed. But over time, they end up in two completely different places. So just think about the 1 millimeter and not the drastic change that comes later. Welcome to King Moves. In chess, the king moves one step at a time, but that single move can change everything. Each week, we explore mindset shifts and simple actions that could lead to the next breakthrough in your business and life. I'm your co-host, Ethan King, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa. Entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures as we think out loud, challenge assumptions, and uncover the small moves that create big momentum. Welcome to King Moves. Let's start the conversation. All right, so Ethan, it is the beginning of 2026. How often have you heard the term, whether it's this year, previous years, new year, new me? New year, new me.
That has to be the most overused term that you hear in January of any given year.
Yeah. And what do you think the problem with New Year, New Me is?
I think it's good. Some people need like a date just to give them motivation to turn a new leaf, to take on a new action. Really, it's arbitrary. You could do it at any time. You could decide to become a new person on March 27th of any year, right? But the problem, I think, is that it's too big. Maybe it's like it's binary, I guess is what I'm saying. It's like, oh, I got to become a whole new person. And then it becomes daunting because life usually doesn't quite work like that. That's why you see people in the gym packed the first 2 weeks of January, and then it goes back empty again right after that because it doesn't stick. If I had to pull out a problem, that would be the one thing I see.
That's it. And I agree 100% with you. And for me, so much of what I do in my coaching, whether it's executive coaching, whether it's strategy facilitation with leadership teams, it's around reducing overwhelm. And I think this idea of new year, new me is massively overwhelming, massively, because we kind of get fed a lot to sit down, or you put down all your new year resolutions. What old you are you leaving behind, and we've just got to cut that cake here and straight away, and we can never go back to that. And it kind of inspired me to write my first newsletter of the year, my Just Thinking newsletter. And it was around this idea of switches versus dials and how we go into, a new year, but really how we should be going into anything is more along the lines of thinking of ourselves as a dial, or thinking of the activity as a dial, something that we can gradually increase or gradually decrease, rather than, and you described it really, really well, but new year, new me being binary, being a switch, being it's on or off. You're either all in or you've failed. It's one or the other. There's no in between. Whereas what we really need to be doing when we're going into our new year is thinking, what areas of myself, whatever areas of my life, do I need to dial up gradually? What others do I need to dial down? Sometimes when it comes to the work context, you might want to dial up delivering work to one type of client, which means you may need to dial down dealing with some other type of client. And I've seen this with my own clients before, where we switch it. We say, I'm changing my ideal customer profile, my ICP. I'm going all in here. And they just switch the other one. They go with the switch route, switch this off, and then, oh shit, that didn't quite work out. Backtrack, try switch that switch on. Dial. Let's slowly dial that one up and dial the other one down. And for me, it's just this massive pressure release. It reduces the overwhelm, because we can look at our lives and we say, right, in which area of my life do I need to dial up 10%? In which area of my life do I need to dial down 20%? Whatever it may be. It's not, I have to go to gym 5 times a week, otherwise I'm a failure. No. Let's ease into it. How do we dial that up? Beginning of the year, it's not going to be perfect. You might travel in the second week of February. Oh, that's means you're probably going to mess up that new gym routine of yours. Well, you haven't failed. It's a dial. We can tweak it as we go, depending on your circumstances. Life isn't perfect. So that's my idea. Dials versus switches.
I like that metaphor a lot, because with the gym, maybe it's you just get out of bed and do 10 push-ups next to your bed instead of
There you go.
instead of thinking about, oh, I have to go to the gym 5 days a week. It's a big difference, but you start with baby steps. And I really like the dials and switches metaphor, because sometimes we forget that we have a dial. And even in real life, so this happens all the time.
Sure.
We recently got our bathrooms renovated at our house. And we got these switches put in that have a dial next to them, like the newer switches where you can switch it, but it has the little slider where you can dim it. It's also dimmable. Well, there's this bright light in my bathroom that I'll turn on, and my wife will be like, oh, that's too bright, that's too bright, that's too bright. And I'm like, well, I need the light. She's like, well, you can dim it, like just dim it. I forget, like, oh yeah, I can actually just turn it down and up. So sometimes in life, we forget that we have a dial, and we think, oh, it has to either be off or on. But usually I can't think of a situation where you don't have a dial. There's levels, there's a spectrum. And I went to this Tony Robbins event years ago, and one of the things that really stood out to me is he said sometimes we just need a 1 millimeter shift, where if you have two objects moving on a parallel path, and one of them just takes a 1 millimeter shift in a different direction, at first it doesn't look like anything changed, but over time they end up in two completely different places. So just think about the 1 millimeter and not the drastic change that comes later.
Yeah. It's an atomic adjacency. What is that atomic adjacency? And where does that take you to? But yeah, I love what you were saying about the dimmable light. I mean, we can think about a volume control. Imagine volume was only 100% volume, or it was mute. And it was a switch. Imagine volume as a switch. And it was just as loud as all hell, or it was on mute. I mean, it doesn't work that way. So volume is dictated by your environment. Like, how noisy is your environment? Okay, well, I need to dial it. So how noisy is your life? How noisy is your life? And then we can dial that up or down depending on what's going on around.
Yeah. Well, that's a great lesson and a great king move. Where in your life can you just turn up the volume just slightly if you need to, instead of being overwhelmed by thinking you have to switch and become a completely different person? And what we're referring to here is issue 30 of Justin's newsletter. It's called Why Most Change Works Gradually. And you can grab it at justinking.co.za for those of you in different places in the world. And it's a great newsletter. Go on there and subscribe, check out this episode, and shoot Justin a message and let him know what you think.
Thanks, Ethan. Appreciate it.
That's a wrap for today's episode of King Moves. Quick favor before we go. If this episode made you think differently or helped you see your next move more clearly, take 30 seconds and leave us a review. It helps the show reach leaders who need these conversations. Remember, in chess, like in business, one right move can change everything.
Take today's action step, make your move, and build momentum. And if you found value in today's episode, share it with someone who's ready for the next breakthrough. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations.
Until next time.